everyone? I'm Doug Kyed. Welcome to Pat's Chat, joined as always by Michael Hurley. Mike, how are we doing today? It's Sunday at 7:12 p.m. We're watching the Cowboys-Niners game and podcasting.
Yeah, I just want to say something because when you came on, I didn't get the what's up. It was sort of blocked out.
What's up?
Do it again. Yeah, the listeners deserve that. I'll tell you this, Doug. Doing poorly because I'm going away this summer with my brother and his family. He has two kids. I have two kids. And we spent a week finding the right Airbnb, finally got it right, hit the submit, hit the pay, whatever. So excited, so thrilled to have that done with. 5 minutes later, I got a message. Oh, I don't know why I let you book. We're booked all summer. Sorry. And I had to cancel it. And now we're like back to square one, not feeling good. So that's where I'm at. Cranky.
That's a bummer. We usually do like a Cape trip each summer on the 4th of July, which I don't know if you've heard, but that's pretty popular week to be on the Cape.
Yeah, are there any like fireworks?
Yeah, there's
going on there?
Nothing going on that week. And we're always like, oh, we should book that in like January, and then April comes around and we're like, oh, we should actually book that now. And then we're like, oh, now we have to pay way more money than we would have booked it for.
Well, that's the thing. There's a place we like to go to my family likes to go to Old Orchard Beach in Maine. No, don't know if you've ever been. Classic Americana vacation, beach, carnival, ice cream, pizza, all that. There is a place, but it's double what we were going to book today. So do we pay double? I don't know. Do you want to ask your daughter? Like Old Orchard, ask her if she'd like to go to Old Orchard. It's a nice place. I can't say it.
Hallie, do you prefer Old Orchard Beach or the Cape? She just said yes.
Yeah,
yes.
That's a good answer.
Yep.
That's the right
yes.
answer.
So she'll go to either one.
All right.
My wife
if
is
you want to
coming
get
to save
in,
our podcast.
This place is double the cost, so we might need another family. There's only one more bed, but you can figure that out.
We'll figure that out.
Beautiful.
All right. Well, we'll talk about me being sick in a little bit so that we can actually get to some Patriots and NFL talk before everyone tunes out. We had the same thought, actually. We were putting together our rundown, and one of your thoughts, you had a Bill O'Brien thought, and since you're the one who put keyboard to computer and sent this to me, I'll let you say it first, but I do want everyone to know that I had the same thought.
Good. My thought is because we're very New England focused in New England. We're very Patriots focused in New England. And when 10 offensive coordinator positions opened up and multiple head coach positions opened up, there was a sort of nervousness or hesitation or whatever you might want to call it, some worry that Bill O'Brien might get a better job offer somewhere else, that you had to act fast because, boy, this guy might be a hot commodity. And I find it interesting that by Sunday night, we haven't heard but one crumb of information or morsel or nervousness or report or whatever that any other team in the world is interested in hiring Bill O'Brien. And I'm not saying that to say, wow, Bill O'Brien's trash. I am saying that to say, does Bill O'Brien need the Patriots as much as the Patriots need Bill O'Brien? That's my question. And based on, and reports sometimes miss things, and there's a lot of openings. So maybe this is not, there are options being not reported, but I feel like the answer is yes. I feel like the team needs him and he needs the team.
I think I saw someone, this might be wildly inaccurate. Like this might have been a joke that I just read and now I'm repeating it. Did I read that there's like 13 open offensive coordinator positions around the NFL
I read
right
13 on a tweet. I know there's 10.
Okay.
But then a day later, someone said 13, and maybe that includes, I don't know, the Cardinals and the Panthers. Are there other?
Okay, I mean, so that would, I guess, right? Like teams without head coaches need offensive coordinators too.
Yeah, because it was like after, I mean, Black Monday was Monday, and by Thursday I saw 10.
Okay. Yeah.
And then on Friday I saw 13.
Right.
I haven't done the math. But the point is between 10 and 13
No,
teams,
there's a lot.
Yeah. And again, I think Bill O'Brien's a good offensive coach. I actually, if I had a team and I had a good structure and a good defensive system and everything, I would love to have Bill O'Brien come in and coach my offense. So I'm not being disparaging in any way. This is not an anti-Bill O'Brien podcast.
No, never.
I just find
You've never turned on an offensive play caller for the Patriots before.
It's inarguable. You can't argue against it. But my question is, why have no other teams asked him, Bill O'Brien, who is really the only qualified candidate that has interviewed for the Patriots job?
So I had the same exact thought today. Well, I was probably sitting up here in my office watching football, watching tweets hit my phone about like all these candidates who are interviewing for open offensive coordinator positions, and I was like, I haven't seen Bill O'Brien's name attached to anyone else other than the Patriots. And I actually didn't. So that's where we had the same thought. I didn't really have the same thought if you was like, does Bill O'Brien need the Patriots just as much as the Patriots need Bill O'Brien? My mind went to NFL teams are incredibly safe a lot of the time. And it's something I mentioned on last week's show where, a prospective offensive coordinator got back to me when I asked him if he was interviewing for the Patriots job. He said no, but he said that
incredible.
But he said that the Patriots would probably stick with like a familiar system, and he surmised that meant either Bill O'Brien or getting Nick Caley into the offensive coordinator role. So that's where my mind went first. Is that like, all right, no one really wants to completely overhaul their offense and bring in Bill O'Brien. Everyone knows how complex the Patriots offense was in the past. They might not know like what Bill O'Brien, whatever. They like that maybe he's not a system fit for what they want to run, or maybe it's too divergent from what they were running beforehand. But then my other thought as well was, what if teams just know that Bill O'Brien is going to the Patriots? Like, what if Bill O'Brien just wants to join the Patriots? Teams know that the Patriots are going to hire Bill O'Brien, and they're just like, why are we going to waste our time? Or, a third possibility would be Bill O'Brien turning down opportunities until the Patriots make a decision one way or the other. And then a fourth possibility is there still could be an issue in the future for teams who hire a new head coach and then still need to hire an offensive coordinator, because like the job searches aren't done until every single job in the NFL is filled from head coach on downward. Because what if Bill O'Brien is attached to a prospective head coach and he goes there instead? So I don't know. I had multi-tiered thoughts on this.
That is a lot. Yeah. I had a thought on your second one, but your third and your fourth wiped it away. I forget what the second one was.
So the first, I have no idea what's in my head right now.
It was a lot.
First one was the systems. Second one, I think, was that teams might not want know that he's going to the Patriots. Yeah.
But if you're a team and you want the guy, you're not going to let that stop you. There's the Patriots don't own Bill O'Brien. So I think if there was a demand, it would have come out and there would be another interview. Like, it just stands out to me. I don't know how many of the teams playing this weekend are going to be in the mix for offensive coordinators next year. I feel like a very low amount. So all the teams looking for offensive coordinators are looking for them. And we know
Bill
O'Brien,
than the teams that are looking for head coaches, though. So
that's Carolina, Arizona, and Houston.
Denver.
Now, Houston, we can feel pretty comfortable in saying it's going to be Josh McCown, right? I mean, he's had to sit it out for 2 cycles.
Wait,
he's ready.
There's 5, right? It's
is
Houston,
there a 5th one? No, this is going to be embarrassing for us.
Houston, Denver, Carolina, Arizona, and
not Washington, not Chicago. I'm looking at last place teams. Not Atlanta.
I'm just going to let
not Cleveland,
Mike cook.
Not the Jets. I'm looking at. All right, I'll go to third place teams. Not Pittsburgh. Not Indy.
There we go. I knew it was 5. So,
but I mean, Saturday has that thing in the bag, doesn't he? He was awesome for a game. You know what? Can I rant for a second?
Yeah.
So, when they hired Jeff Saturday, literally everyone in the world was like, well, that's stupid. And when they won their first game, every one of his colleagues at ESPN was like, who's stupid now? And then they literally sucked horrifically for the rest of the year. So that's my rant. But yeah, Indy would be another. But, man, Indy interview, like, they're going through it, but who trusts their process? So I almost forgive ourselves for ignoring that, because it's sort of just like Indy's doing their thing. So we are not dumb. Indy is.
And I think that it would probably make the most sense for a team who wanted to bring in Bill O'Brien, for it to either be a defensive head coach who needs someone to just run the offense, or someone who's just simply very inexperienced who would want like a veteran coach to be around, who's been a head coach elsewhere. But I do think they would probably almost have to be a defensive coach, right? Because if someone's hiring an offensive coach, they're hiring him for his mind, for what he's going to run on offense, for what he's going to do on offense, and it wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense for like Shane Steichen or Shane Spikeman as Rob Gronkowski. Rob Gronkowski, really bad as an NFL analyst.
Well, like, why are we making him a boring desk guy?
I know,
think you
but
tweeted
still,
your tweet,
yes,
like, there's a way to use him, and it's like,
yeah,
that is not the way to make him be like, well, I think that this is the case. Just let him be Rob. People like him generally. Like, he can be entertaining on his own. There doesn't need to be this professionalism about him.
Right.
I don't believe anybody is seeking professionalism from Rob Gronkowski in a television setting. So he's great on Nickelodeon. I would make him a key member of those playoff. Wait, Doug. The divisional round is ending, and there was no Nickelodeon game.
Oh yeah, that's weird.
My kids love that. The SpongeBob field goal, all that. Rob would have been great in that, but apparently that's over. They did that in the regular season. Anyways, Spikeman, Mr. Spikeman.
I think Gronk, like, I replied to, I think it was someone on Twitter, like, he could, like, interview players. I think that might be kind of entertaining. Like, just kind of, like, broing out with someone else. Like, those interviews that he does with Brady, or that he used to when they were both on the Bucs, like, they were, like, dumb. But I could see Fox being like, that would be an entertaining thing to do for someone. But like Gronk on the desk on a pregame show is just so reminiscent of Gronk at a press conference in front of us.
Yeah.
And like,
don't say anything wrong. Don't say anything wrong.
Just like saying things. This is going to sound harsh, but like saying like useless things for the media, because I think when Gronk like does get nervous or doesn't know what to say, he just like states facts. And that was what he was trying to do with the Eagles, being like, their head coach's name is Nick Sirianni. Their offensive coordinator's name is Shane Spikeman.
But I will say that was a pregame show with like 14 members on it. And one of them, I don't think Sean Payton's any good at it either.
He's not.
Like, you should have people that talk about sports and people who do sports. I feel like when there's people in between, they don't know what to do. But yeah, anyways, Spikeman was one of the candidates. I really derailed you.
It's okay. I had more thoughts on the Fox pregame show, but I'll leave that for another time. I don't think it makes sense for an offensive coach like Shane Steichen to bring in a Bill O'Brien. So like a Jonathan Gannon, or if like Wilkes got the job in Carolina, like there's plenty of, I don't know, what's his name, the Cowboys defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn. I think he'd probably bring in.
That would be a great match. I think Dan Quinn and Bill O'Brien. It's like guys born in the 60s coaching football. Like, perfect.
Bald guys born in the 60s coaching football.
Is O'Brien bald?
Yeah.
He wears a hat a lot.
True.
He might have hair.
But under there's not a lot of hair.
Some guys are hat guys.
Maybe not as little hair as Dan Quinn, but I think... I
was worried about my power alleys today, but every time I do, I look at a high school picture, they were the exact same. So far, we're okay. It's jarring, though, sometimes.
I'm wearing a hat because I'm still sick, and
no power alleys there.
I'm doing all right.
A lot of hair up there, buddy.
Yeah, that's actually too much.
You can't even control it. It's just overwhelming. Doug is drowning in his hair right now.
Make sure to watch on YouTube so you can see me drowning in my hair. I shouldn't have taken off my hat too, because now my hair underneath is messed up.
I'm sorry. I was so focused on the podcast, I missed it. Brett Maher, they had an extra point block. The Cowboys had an extra point block. That is as good as a miss as I've ever seen. So I'm sorry to interrupt the podcast with live football that will be not live, but that is something. Did you see Jerry Jones was talking to him during warmups?
Yeah, I'm sure Jerry Jones is just very pleased right now with that blocked extra point. It was an extra point, right?
It's tough. Yeah. You just want to pop that.
That's rare. That's really rare.
You want to pop that one to the moon. It's going to get to the goalpost.
You should be able to get as much height on that as possible.
Not an issue. Anyways, I'm Mr. Derailment tonight. I'm sorry. Point is, right. Bill O'Brien is a very experienced offensive coordinator, head coach, play caller, offensive mind. He's been doing it. He joined the Patriots in 2008, I want to say, which was his entry point into the NFL, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. He's from Duke. Is that right?
I think so. Sounds right.
That? He was at multiple schools, but I feel like Duke was right before that. Maybe I'm wrong. So 2008, which was 15 years ago, tons of experience, led the Alabama offense, which was pretty high profile last year, and is widely known as available. and no one's gunning for him except for the Patriots. And again, I don't want to say Patriots dumb, but it's worth noting that all of this consternation that we've created locally about the time crunch, it might not be there because it seems like nobody else wants him.
Yeah, that is certainly one of the possibilities, and I found that interesting as well. I'm about to derail right now, so
I've derailed way too much.
I'm going through the Bill O'Brien resume before he joined the Patriots, and he had been an OC / quarterbacks coach at Georgia Tech, and then also OC / quarterbacks coach at Duke, as you mentioned, before he came on with the Patriots as an offensive assistant in actually 2007. But like, just
I was off
just seeing his resume going from Brown to Georgia Tech, Maryland, Duke to the Patriots, that seems like a natural evolution. Maybe overqualified to come to the Patriots as an offensive assistant after being a 2-time college offensive coordinator.
I mean, let's cool it with Duke.
But
let's cool it with Duke.
Like you're bringing someone from Duke, Maryland, Georgia Tech, Division I football schools. You're not bringing them from Snow College or from Minot State.
Minot.
Or from what was the high school that Tyler Hughes coached at?
Oh.
I'm just curious why there hasn't been a similar pipeline for a Patriots offensive assistant since, like, I don't know where Nick Caley specifically
So you're
came
saying
from. But like I think that
highly
someone like
qualified
Bill
college
O'Brien,
coach to OA to running the offense 2 years later.
well, maybe not 2 years. I mean, yeah, I guess if like you've been a college offensive coordinator, I guess that's not completely out of their own possibility. I just think that
I think Dayball is that guy because Dayball had been an OC, NFL wise, briefly a few times. We mentioned that.
Well, yeah, but he also
and then he came here and kind of
the
like
Patriots.
Yeah, but then he came back and kind of like paid his dues.
But that was even still like Brian Daboll rejoined the Patriots in 2013. That was 10 years ago at this point. I don't know.
I firmly disagree with that assessment. 2013 was 4 years ago max, but whatever. Carry on.
I don't know. I know that this is like pointless to go over at this point, but like,
what point are we trying to make? Because I'm not sure what I'm trying to say.
My point is that the Patriots should have been making similar hires through the years to replenish their offensive staff.
Yes.
So
Bill O'Brien as offensive assistant in 07.
Right. Like the equivalent of Bill O'Brien in 2007 like should have been hired in 2017 and should have been hired in 2019 and should have been hired in 2021 because like if those hires had been made, we might not even be talking about this right now. Or I guess the other option is to not let those guys leave for the Raiders.
I think that is it because your running backs coach had been here for 20 years. Your O-line coach had been here for 20 years.
Right.
You were maybe limited in some areas, but when Josh left to just let the guys go is probably what still stands out because I've probably mentioned on the I talk a lot in my life, as you might imagine. So I think I said it here, but the HBO documentary, Saban and Belichick, they both said, in like Belichick said almost nothing in that entire hour and a half long special, whatever it was. But the one thing he kind of got fired up about was like, if you leave my staff, I'm happy for you to go on and forge your own path. But it bothers me when you take members of my staff to join your staff, start your own staff.
Yeah.
And so for him to let 3 assistants go with McDaniels last year didn't jibe with that at all.
Right. It's so weird.
Again, you're not going to see me sit here and be like, oh my God, they let Bo Hardigree go. This team is full of buffoons. But when you let a large chunk of your staff go and then your offense looks like it did, and when you have it run by who you had it run by, it's a curious decision at the least. But I think it speaks to your point in the replenishment point. Like, yeah, okay, Ivan Fears had the running backs job locked down, and Dante Scarnecchia had the offensive line job locked down. But offensive assistants, there's always room to hire them. And maybe you're right. Maybe they overlooked it. Maybe there was a comfort level with Josh that Josh would always be here. I don't know.
Right.
But that might have factored in. But I think we saw in year one without that there is a need for almost like an emergency replenishment.
I think like with Nick Lombardi, it made sense to let him leave because like he was going from being a wide receivers coach to offensive coordinator. With Bo Hardigree, Like, he easily could have just taken over as quarterbacks coach. And with Carmen Brasillo, he easily could have just kept his role as offensive line coach.
Right.
That looks a lot more to me as Bill Belichick just wanting to force Joe Judge into quarterbacks coach. And wanting
none
to
of
force
those
Matt
guys were
Patricia
replaced. No
into
one was
offensive
replaced.
line coach. Right. Yeah. It was basically just like, I want to give my guys those jobs, which, I don't know, everyone can gripe about forever, and I'll probably talk about forever because it's so strange. There was some news about, what was it, the Shrine Bowl. Troy Brown is going to be the head coach
I don't
on
know.
offense.
Not to listen, Doug. You and I love Zach Cox like a brother. I saw him tweet, and it was a Nesson like one Patriots assistant, and I was like, nope, not even going to look into it out of principle. So if it was him, if it was another Patriots offensive assistant, I don't know. Someone's going to be a head coach down at the Shrine.
So I think it's Troy Brown's gonna be a head coach. Ross Douglas is gonna be the offensive coordinator, and I don't know,
DeMarcus Covington.
He's gonna be
Could have been
something somewhere. I don't know. Yeah, it's not.
Someone's going to
worth,
the Senior Bowl too. I don't know. They got a lot of starting.
Yeah, I think Covington's going to the Senior Bowl. I don't know. I just thought it was kind of interesting that Troy Brown was being handed, but like, I think that's more just the Patriots don't have an offensive coordinator yet, so they have to like have someone be the head coach down there. But I did have another thought.
I clicked it, Doug. I friggin' clicked it.
You did
Damn
it.
you, Zach. You got my click.
It's Troy Brown, isn't it?
Troy Brown will serve as head coach for the West team.
Gerard Mayo, Albert Breer reported that Gerard Mayo was sitting in next to Bill Belichick for the offensive coordinator interviews. So that feels like whatever promotion for Gerard Mayo is pretty much set in stone at this point, right?
Yeah, I mean, we said that the other day when he
Yeah.
started turning down when he turned down the Carolina head coach interview. He's here and he's part of the future, and fill in the dots. Maybe there's some short-term awkwardness or lack of clarity with the defensive coaching hierarchy. Like if Steve is the play caller and Gerard isn't, I don't know.
Right.
But maybe Steve isn't the head coach. You know, maybe there is.
Right.
Gerard is clearly, as a former linebacker in the NFL freaking L, is more, gets the players better and is a better leader. So maybe the Patriots, laid a thing, and it's not a disrespect to Steve, but maybe he is given the sort of assurances that McDaniels was 5 years ago.
What it would be interesting, and I don't know if I expect this to happen or not, but it would actually be interesting if they named Gerard Mayo linebackers coach / assistant head coach or associate head coach, whatever you want to put that title as, and then also then gave Steve Belichick the defensive coordinator role. I wonder if that would be something that they would consider doing, because like if Steve Belichick is still going to be calling plays, which based on the success of the Patriots defense last year, I don't think is the worst idea. I don't know, like, would that be a slap in the face to Gerard Mayo to not make him DC / assistant head coach? Is just assistant head coach enough to, I don't know, to keep him around? I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I whatever it was enough to keep him around. And now we're just
Right.
guessing at what it is. I still think I'm very high in the Patriots defense. I think the Patriots defense is as good as, we watched the Chiefs this weekend. We watched the Bills. The Bengals shut down the Bills, but there is that factor. But the fact of the matter is we know that the Patriots only beat Jared Goff in terms of real starting quarterbacks in the NFL, right? So for as good as the numbers are and as impressive, I think they were good.
Yeah.
They still got blown out by Lamar. I think they still didn't do enough to stop Aaron Rodgers. So they're still not great. So I think whatever it is, it's not as if I want to be careful. I don't want to be obnoxious. But we think about last year being 2022. Last year being 2021. The defense had big problems at the beginning and the end of the year. This year, they never had the big problems, but they still never elevated to the point that I think you want them to be at.
I think there was a talent deficiency on defense, though. Like
the linebacker spot,
the cornerback spot didn't have a number one. Obviously, guys played better than you might have expected there, but like Jalen Mills was out for most of the season.
When you faced Stephon Diggs and Justin Jefferson, you had issues.
Right, a linebacker, they could certainly afford to add more talent. And safety, like Devin McCourty was still good last season, but wasn't maybe at the top of his game. Like, I don't know how much they could improve the safety position, but I do think that there could be upgrades made at cornerback and at linebacker next year.
Yeah, no, that's fair, and we'll probably look at that more closely. I did notice Devin Lloyd. I feel like we spent a lot of time last spring being like Patriots Devin Lloyd, Patriots Devin Lloyd. What was he doing on Travis Kelce's touchdown yesterday? I'm still a little bit perplexed by that one. So I don't know. Maybe the Utah to NFL jump is a bit bigger than we anticipated. But I think largely. Oh, go ahead.
I mean, I also think that like drafting linebackers in the first round is one of the bigger crapshoots. Like up there with any other position, where like you have no idea what you're getting at that position. In the first round, I feel like there's as many misses as there are hits. So I never have a lot of confidence with the Jamin Davises or the Devin Lloyds or the Devin Bushes. It's like, I don't know, they might be good, but it's just a hard position to evaluate.
That's fair. I was like, we had to make our guesses last year. So I was like, I think it's going to be Nakobe Dean. I think Nakobe Dean is the guy they're going to go for, and he went like 85th,
third round. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that speaks to the crapshoot because I think a lot of people on the outside thought that. There was Quay Walker. Was he the trainer pusher guy? He pushed the trainer?
I think so. Yeah.
Twice.
Twice.
Yeah. No respect for the training staff, but I think there's a lot of just like any position. I think that speaks to it. So it's just funny because last year, what you're saying now about the need to upgrade talent at linebacker, I think we all felt last year, and they took a guard out of Chattanooga, as we know. So you and I both agreed the other day that they need to go tackle in this draft. So they'll probably go tackle out of, I don't know, name a random town in America. Maybe there'll be a tackle there.
Maybe it's Minot State.
It could be Minot. They have a decent program there, as we know.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. But just to centralize it to the Steve Belichick, the defensive coordinator, whether it's Mayo or him, it's obviously tricky, and it's not even in that sort of wise ass son of the coach sense. We just don't know how it works in those meeting rooms. We don't know how it works in the game plan. We don't know how it works in the full team meetings. It's a bit tricky, and I think ultimately the Patriots realized they had a very smart, talented, relatable, young head coach potential in Gerard Mayo and didn't want to lose him. So I think whatever it is, they'll be able to figure it out. I think that's the bottom line.
Yeah, no, it seems like they have figured that out at this point. And yeah, sorry. I can usually tell when a cough is coming.
It's a throwback to like week one of the podcast.
I know. I listened back to one of those, and my voice was so brutal to get through. Like, I credit anyone for continuing to listen to this podcast through some of those early episodes. I told Mike this off the top. I didn't mention this really on air yet, but I've got an ear infection right now. I might have conjunctivitis, but my eyes are looking pretty good, as you can see. But the doctor that I went to kind of roasted me about having an ear infection. Because I was like, I think I have an ear infection because I woke up last night and my ear really hurt and it's still clogged right now. And he was like, oh, well, you haven't seen a lot of ear infections. And then he looked at my ear. He was like, oh, that looks painful. He was like, yep, that's a classic kid's ear infection. I was like, I'm a grown man, sir. I'm not a child.
He's like, have you been eating your vegetables, Doug?
I was like, what is it? I didn't question it because I was like, but then he was like, yeah, we like never got ear infections, and now this year we've seen a ton of ear infections. So I don't know how the hell I got an ear infection. I promise you, I'm not a child.
I should say, as a warning, I downloaded. There's an Apple game, The Oregon Trail, on Apple Arcade. I downloaded it today, and cholera still a big deal back in the late 1860s, early 1870s. So just be on the lookout. Just make sure you take your medicines because we don't need. Doug has died of cholera in the middle of a podcast. It would really. I could carry it for a few minutes, but then we just have to go black. So
cholera would be a little less embarrassing than dysentery, I think. That might be the worst one. I don't, but I also don't specifically know what cholera is. I'm not.
No, it seems really bad though.
In the 1880s, but yeah, I saw you post that.
Oh, it's a bacterial infection of the small intestine.
Ooh,
you do not want anything in the
intestine. I don't want cholera. I saw you post that. I was like, I don't have Apple Arcade. I'm not going to go through this process of like
I got a new phone,
doing a free
so it's
trial and all that stuff.
Okay.
But
Now dysentery, historically known as the bloody flux, is a type of gastroenteritis that results in bloody diarrhea.
well, yeah, that's bloody diarrhea.
Dysentery out as well.
Yeah.
So just take care of yourself, and that's to you, and that's to everyone listening. Don't get dysentery. Don't get cholera. See the doctor.
I will try to avoid all future ear infections, and hopefully I stay clear of dysentery as well.
Yes.
You'd hate to see
I mean,
bloody
you would.
diarrhea.
You would genuinely hate to see that, like thoroughly, without a doubt.
So I
Anyways.
wanted to talk about, and I think you wanted to talk about this too, the catch from today, Jamar Chase. This doesn't really super well to the Patriots, but it happened in today's playoff games.
Well, it does
and-
because the Hunter Henry Thanksgiving catch was like the ultimate.
Yeah,
I don't want to say like flex point or whatever. It was a flashpoint in the what is a catch debate because it reopened a lot of avenues that I thought had been closed.
with the Jamar Chase play today, like this is, I say this a lot. This might be Doug having a dumb thought. Like you might be listening to this and be like, "How the hell does this person function on a day-to-day basis? This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard." Jamar Chase, he never really lost possession of the ball. Like
Right, it was always on his
I
tummy.
understand. I understand that he let go of the ball. It remained on his person the entire
Yes.
time. It never hit the ground. And like I guess like and then he had to retain possession, meaning he had to hold the ball or whatever it is. But like if he was on a field of play and he caught the ball and then he fell to the ground and the ball hit his chest and then if he just laid there with the ball on his chest, that would be a catch because he never lost possession of the ball.
Well, I'll interrupt the dumb Doug thought because I know you're not dumb, but this is what is at play. Is you don't have the freedom to do that out of bounds, which you know.
I know, but like
But
he never actually
in this
lost
case-
possession. It didn't hit the
in this
ground.
case-
Like no one took it from him.
He had 3 steps. With the
Right,
ball.
that too. Yeah.
Then he was going out. Then it was whacked. But again, to your point, it's not like he dropped it. It's not like it hit the
No.
ground and he carries on with his life. It stayed on his person.
Yeah.
There was still, not in the football sense, there was still in the general sense, possession. So if he satisfied the requirements inbounds, and my thought was, remember the Patriots-Giants game at the end of 2016, 15?
No. But I'm sure
There was
you
a
do.
regular
And-
season game at the Meadowlands. It was 2015, I think, because Malcolm Butler was on OBJ
I was there.
all game.
Yeah.
And Eli threw a touchdown to Odell Beckham. By all thoughts and awareness, Odell Beckham caught the ball, both feet were down, and he had possession of the ball. And at that point, Malcolm Butler came and
Right.
swatted it away.
Yes.
And they said he didn't satisfy the requirements.
Right.
And at that point, when that play happened, I said, that is an incompletion. I know the rules.
Right.
When the Jesse James play happened, I knew that was an incompletion. I knew the rules.
Right.
Starting on Thanksgiving night, when Hunter Henry had a hand under the ball and then bobbled it but still caught it, I have not known what is catches. And it's like cliche to be, what is a catch? What is a catch? I have taken on a sort of NBA approach, which is I have seen it. I have formulated my thoughts, but I will just sit back and see what they say because I have been excluded from the process of knowing what can be a catch.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was flabbergasted that they called that back because it was just like he got 3 feet down.
3 feet.
He's like he scored the touchdown, and then on his way out of bounds, the ball got jarred loose. He never lost possession. It never hit the ground. No one stole it from him.
Oh, stop. Because if he catches it and gets 3 feet down, and then spikes it immediately, I think that's a touchdoon.
Right.
So it could touch the ground. Like it doesn't even matter.
Well, yeah. I had one other thought on this, and I forgot what it was already.
Well, there's the issue of if you have possession in the field of play and then cross the plane and it's a touchdown instantly, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
And people still confuse that a little bit, I think. But in this case, it wasn't as if he was in the process of completing the catch.
Right.
He had completed the process of the catch and then fell out of bounds, at which point he's not on the field anymore. and they said 3 years ago, surviving the ground was gone. Surviving the ground is no longer a part of the thing. And yet, starting Thanksgiving, Terry McAulay said it. What's his name? Walt Anderson said it. And we've seen it. This was a surviving the ground situation.
Right. It seems like they removed that language, but kept the idea in play.
Yes,
but
that's exactly right.
If you can catch a ball with your legs, I think it was Amon-Ra St. Brown who did that this season, right? He caught a ball with his legs.
Yeah.
Like, why are you allowed to catch a ball with your legs, but not catch a ball with your chest?
Well, he's in bounds, I guess, is the difference.
St. Brown, I guess.
So, like, I'm not,
but like, if Ja'Marr Chase had transferred the ball from his hands to his legs, and then landed out of bounds, I don't know. I don't know what the comparison here.
I'm with you.
Like,
I'm with you.
I don't think he lost possession. It was on his person the entire time. Yeah. It never hit the ground. Like, I don't know that if it would be a catch if he was inbounds, then I don't understand why it can't be a catch if he's out of bounds.
And I want to be clear because people might be like, "What the F are you guys talking about?" It's really just knowing the rules of the NFL, because it's critical, I think, that we understand them and can see them applied as uniformly as possible. It's a tricky concept. It's a tricky game. I understand that. But like I said, even the Austin Seferian-Jenkins play, as soon as that happened, I said, that's a safety. And I know it was like controversial, but like when you understand the rules and you know how they are applied, you know what's going on. I have, as someone that I think, not to toot my own horn, I think I had a pretty good understanding of the NFL rules and what's going on. And now I feel like it's this sort of ruleless, lawless, choose your own adventure society that I am not invited to. And I don't know. It opens itself to questions. Like today, I think there's reason to believe the NFL wanted this neutral site game to happen because of that press release on Friday about ticket sales, and yay. But when these things happen and rules go that way, and including the Josh Allen fumble that was turned into incompletion, you open yourself to the speculation. And I can't sit here and say people are stupid for thinking that or speculating that, because I don't know what the hell else is going on.
Right. And with the Ja'Marr Chase catch, if they wanted to reverse that call, then that would be to benefit the Bills and to make that neutral site game an option. With the Josh Allen fumble, it almost felt at that point like they were just like, we want to keep this game interesting. We don't want the Bengals to suddenly be up by 24 points or whatever it would have been at that point.
It was 17 points at that point.
It was 17 points, and then if they had scored a touch, then it would have been completely out of hand. But like, that was about as close as like the tie goes to the quarterback as possible.
Oh yeah, I have no issue with that one, to be honest with you.
I don't.
The ball went forward.
I did initially. Like,
me too.
Like the arm was like basically as far back as it could have been when it got hit, and I almost feel like the ball. I don't know. It's not really worth like reassessing that one to the same degree as the Ja'Marr Chase play. But I do think that in that moment they're like, you know what? We'd rather this game be interesting. Let's call it an incomplete pass.
Yeah, but like I would say the catch is more interesting, because what if that was Stephon Diggs and the score was 14-7, and that was the game tying touchdown? Does the same call get made? I'm not going to say I'm not a conspiracy guy, because I love me a good conspiracy. In this situation, do I think they would have called it the same? I honestly don't. I don't honestly believe that. And that, I think, is a problem, because the rules are applied to whatever fits. And we said on this podcast, when Kendrick Bourne got a catch out of bounds in the situation you were describing, when a team is down and you want to keep things interesting, the NFL tends to lean that way, no matter what the case. And I think today's both of those calls lean into that.
I know that you want to talk about a certain announcer and his calls on Patrick Mahomes and Trevor Lawrence.
You can abstain.
I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to say about this, but I will say,
sit out.
I'll say that I thought it was funny.
Okay.
That Chris Collinsworth called Trevor Lawrence's incompletion to Christian Kirk that was dropped an overthrow. And like, I was like, wow, that's an interesting thing to say. And then I went to Twitter.
It was on the same night, Doug.
It seemed like a lot of other people thought it was an interesting thing to say too.
It was the same night that Patrick Mahomes, and listen, and this is the thing that Twitter and nuance and like I had to mute things on Twitter because every time I opened Twitter, there's 20 plus notifications of Chiefs fans being like, "You are a P word" and whatnot. So I had to mute some things. It's not like Patrick Mahomes' day was unreal. Patrick Mahomes' guts, performance, leadership, everything about Pat Mahomes was outstanding. We don't need to praise his drop of the football, which is what Chris Collinsworth did. There was the play, Mahomes rolling around trying to make something happen, goes to throw, decides to pocket the pass, and just the ball falls out of his hand. He dropped it. Now, luckily for him, his arm was moving forward. It wasn't a tuck because he lost it on the way moving forward. It was an incomplete pass. Really like an accident that worked out well. And they show the replay, and Chris Collinsworth just goes, really just an unbelievable play by Mahomes right there. If he lets that go, it's an interception. And I was just like, this is what pisses people off. And it's what pissed people off when Brady did something like that and got praised for it. You can't praise people for making mistakes. And then an hour later, or like a half hour later, when a quarterback makes one of the best throws imaginable, say it was overthrown. A ball, maybe to your point, it hit Christian Kirk in the elbows. Maybe as a receiver, Chris Collinsworth, no, maybe he wanted more in the biceps, tougher to lose. But we're talking about maybe an inch there. Just like
catchable football, very catchable football.
Hit him between the arms. I just think that's the stuff that just pisses the average fan off. And I don't know any fan that wants to hate Mahomes, but when stuff like that happens, it leads to people being like, "Screw Mahomes," because it's not his fault. To me, it's not his fault that this guy is praising him for dropping a football in the middle of a football game. But I felt like that was worth talking about.
I tweeted something about Patrick Mahomes yesterday, and that's that we haven't heard diddly squat about Jackson Mahomes or Brittany Mahomes all season.
Yeah, they mentioned
I just
her
find
during
that
the broadcast.
Very interesting. That they finally mentioned her during the broadcast. But like, I feel like last year there was a Brittany Mahomes or Jackson Mahomes story every single week. And I'll also say, Patrick Mahomes didn't play that well while a lot of those stories were going on. Now, those stories went away, and Patrick Mahomes is probably going to win MVP this year, right? He was unbelievable all season. I don't know if those two things are related. I don't know if those things aren't related, but I do think it's an interesting observation that there was less distractions, maybe less stress going on in Patrick Mahomes' life this season, and he played a lot better than he did in 2021.
Yeah, just like the quietest 41 touchdown season I've ever seen. Because there was a point, maybe in week 12, 13-ish, where I was like, man, it feels like for all the offensive numbers that have been jumping lately, this year's not the same. And then I look, it's like Mahomes was there. I was like, all right, never mind. I messed up. Someone's going to throw 41 touchdowns. But what do you think AFC-wise? Because I think this does relate to the Patriots, and this is Pat's chat. I have some worry about Pat Mahomes next week. I think there won't be the pain medication and the adrenaline that will help him through. That's going to be a tough one. It's a high ankle sprain, according to Rappaport, which
certainly looked like one.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like he tore his knee, to be honest with you, in the moment. Like, that was scary. But if it's a high ankle sprain, we saw here in New England, Mac Jones was out for 3 weeks, really 3.5 if we count the Bears game. That could be a Super Bowl deciding injury, really. If the Bengals play as pissed off next week as they did this week, that could alter the Chiefs and all their Super Bowls. I mean, people had them slated for multiple Super Bowls. That could be significant. So I think that's a big one.
I agree with you.
Thank you.
I will say, though, that, and obviously they're different quarterbacks, so it's not a perfect comparison, but Tom Brady did play through multiple high ankle sprains during his Patriots career.
One was Super Bowl 42. That didn't work out too well.
Right. One, he had a high ankle sprain right before Super Bowl 42, and then he had a high ankle sprain in week 17 of the 2015 season. So
then they lost in Denver.
Yeah,
I think the difference is, and it's not like Mahomes is a quote unquote
no, it's 100%.
But he loves moving.
Yes, and he needs to move to make all of his crazy throws and everything like that. So I do think it's a big deal.
He needs to move unless the opponent says, Travis Kelce, who's that guy? 87, yellow glove. He's good. Whoa. He's got like 6 catches already. This guy's awesome.
What number is Travis Kelce and what number is Blake Bell?
78.
I can't remember.
I think Kelsey's 78.
Which one's
87.
Noah Gray? Which one's Travis Kelce?
That was that was unfathomable. It's similar to Pittsburgh not covering Gronkowski, but at least they figured it out eventually. That was really bad.
I know that sometimes you get sick of players on other teams who receive a lot of publicity. But I'm curious, what do you think of Travis and Jason Kelce? Because I find them to be like two pleasant human beings who have a funny podcast together. And like I don't listen to the podcast, but I see the clips on TikTok and stuff. I'm like, oh, that was a funny thing that they said. I just think it's cool that both those guys are like really effing good at football and on two teams that are like unbelievable. It's just like a cool story that they exist. I think. I don't know.
Did you see Jason Kelce one hand the guy to the ground? That was the highlight of the weekend. I think. I think Jason Kelce is cooler. And he explained it well. I don't know when. It was like 5 years ago. He explained. Oh, yeah. Someone asked him, and it was because he played hockey.
Yes.
And Travis didn't, and that is all I needed to understand. But I think Travis Kelce has toned it down a little. I think he was a little bit. Is. And I think it's similar, like Gronkowski did that as well. Like there was a over the top characterization of the player.
Yeah.
I think Travis Kelce as a person figure that out as he enters. I always think about that. Like, imagine if you're 25 and you're like extremely rich and very famous. You'd screw up so badly and just make an ass of yourself. So anyone that makes it through, God bless him. But as a player, it's undeniable how impactful he is. And there's games like that where you're like, how does that happen? And it's not coincidental. It's not an accident. You don't luck into that. You luck into some of it when the other team is that idiotic about it. But you get the point. That as he continues to produce, but I think ultimately it's going to come down to Super Bowls. That legacy of Mahomes and Kelce, because Hill's gone.
Oh yeah,
and like those are the two guys on offense. And next week's a big one for them in terms of legacy, in terms of AFC, and I don't know, Patriots fans. I saw some people getting a little sore. Someone called it like the Kansas City Invitational because it's the fifth straight AFC Championship game. People here got a little testy about it. I get it. You protect what you are, and people get caught up in the moment. But what they're doing is undeniable. It's just a matter of finishing it. And I think next week is really interesting in that. And legacy-wise with the Patriots, I feel like you have to root against the Chiefs.
Right.
Because they're the biggest threat to the Patriots and all that they accomplished in the AFC. I don't know, maybe the Bengals are, and I'm being stupid, but that's what I think.
I mean, the Bengals could eventually. I feel like all the Twitter NFL nerds are like constantly dying to write off the Bengals because they don't like Zach Taylor and they don't like Joe Burrow.
I'm going to find my story while you say that. You keep going.
As much as like Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence and all these other quarterbacks who might be like more physically gifted, but like, so I always kind of like seeing the Bengals emerge because it's like, haha, those like the NFL Twitter bullies are wrong. I don't know. It's just fun.
Week 9, November 3rd, Michael Hurley, Hurley's Picks. Bengals reminding us that sometimes Super Bowl losers are losers. And then we go to the gist of it. From here on out, we can no longer refer to the 22 Bengals as the reigning AFC champions. That's the title they gave away several weeks ago, arguably in week 1. Great point, Mike. And it's one they're no longer worthy of carrying. For now, they're just the Bengals. I will say, I was obviously, playing it up a little bit, but they didn't start the season very well.
And now they've won 9.
They were 4-4.
Yeah,
4-4, and now they're 14-4. So that sounds like 10 in a row. Reasonable minds disagree on the number, but the point is, they had that snarl and that nastiness today that I think anyone in New England can appreciate, because there was the nobody believes in us. There was you saw Joe Burrow's post-game interview, like, better off for those refunds. Even, am I a Zach Taylor fan now because of his little like snarky response? He did this whole thing about, we keep messing their plans up. Now they can't have their neutral site game. I almost feel like, all right, Zach, like hats off, whatever. But they definitely played into it this week. I don't know what they conjure up next week for Kansas City. It'll be harder
because they've won their last 3 games against Kansas City too.
That's true.
And I'm sure just need to go into this one like full swagger. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think it'll be. But I think AFC wise. And it does affect the Patriots because the Patriots did what they did. And I think the Patriots are safe No one's going to win 6 Super Bowls in a 17-year
No.
stretch. But you want to mitigate it, and I think if that's part of your concern, you'd be a Bengals fan because the Bengals don't have a Super Bowl win yet, and the Chiefs do. I'm just doing some math. I don't know. Doing my best.
This is post this game, so I guess I can finally say this or admit this. I think that the Bengals had a gripe about today's game not being at a neutral site against the Bills, because the NFL had just decided on its own, all right, in the AFC Championship game, we're going to imagine this as if the Bills had won. And in the divisional round and in the wild card round as well, they were like, you know what? We're going to imagine this as if the Bengals lost. It's just what? How is that fair? And I feel like they couldn't complain to the same degree that they should have because of the circumstances around it. But
at a certain point, they could have.
Right. Yeah. And I get, it was wild that the NFL was like, you know what? We're going to handle this as if the Bills won and as if the Bengals lost, even though the Bengals were winning the game
7-3
when the game was suspended.
who knows? But the Bills were 13-3, the Bengals were 12-4.
Right.
If they win that game, this game is in Cincinnati. But I think ultimately, big picture, and this doesn't count, but it helped the Bengals more that they had to go to Buffalo. I honestly think that.
No, definitely.
How about the snow?
Note?
Oh, go ahead. Well, just one last thing on the game being in Buffalo. Yeah. It was like a snow globe. It was idyllic. It was beautiful as a football fan. It just kills me that the NFL had Green Bay, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Chicago, New England, and New Jersey all available for this neutral site game, and they chose Atlanta indoors.
Right.
That's why I think they were building the Final Four weekend concept to see, will fans travel, will fans buy tickets, and they got their answer was yes. And I think that's unfortunate because the game today was beautiful, and next week in Kansas City it's going to be beautiful. And the fact that they chose Atlanta,
really weird too, because I understand for Super Bowl week, there's a million people there all week, but it's not an all-week event if it's a neutral site game for an AFC Championship game. The teams are going to fly in a day before. There's no.
You can convince the fans to show up on Thursday. Then there's stuff on Friday and Saturday.
But
maybe one game's on Saturday, one's on Sunday.
Right.
It's not this year, but I think they were building toward that concept because the league could make $100 billion, and they'd be like, "What if we made $100.1 billion next year? It's worth it, guys," and they would do it. So I think that's what they were going for.
You had one note on the Jaguars just before we move on a little bit here. Your question was, will the Jags be around for a while? And my answer to that would be possibly, but they also need to draft better than they have in recent years. And I'm not fully convinced that that's going to happen with Trent Baalke as their GM. And even looking at this year, Trayvon Walker is the number 1 overall pick. There's a strong case to be made that Aiden Hutchinson or Sauce Gardner or someone else would have been a better pick. Devin Lloyd, the aforementioned linebacker that they also took in the first round, wasn't that great this season. Obviously, they drafted well last year with Trevor Lawrence, Tyson Campbell, maybe 1 or 2 other picks in there, but Travis Etienne. But they basically just have to draft better, and I don't know. Jaguars fans love them. Some Trayvon Walker, I think. Some of the aforementioned NFL Twitter wants to like Trayvon Walker maybe even more than they should because they didn't like as much hype as Aiden Hutchinson got, quite frankly, from PFF last year. But I also think that after this season, Aiden Hutchinson was the better player, at least as a rookie this year. So I don't know. Larger point here is just that the Jaguars have to draft better. And we saw that this weekend because teams that draft well make it pretty far in the playoffs.
Yeah, I have a bias. Trent Baalke elevated or made Jim Tomsula the head coach of the 49ers. But then he also made him not the head coach of the 49ers anymore, which I think was dumb. I think the world could have benefited from more Jim Tomsula. So I'm with you. There are some questions there, but I just think...
Did he hire Mike Singletary as well?
Ooh. What? That might have been before him, but...
Because if he's got Tomsula, Urban Meyer, and Singletary on his resume, that's impressive.
Singletary took his pants off. People do forget that. Okay, he was promoted to GM after the firing of Mike Singletary. So whoever had Mike Singletary lost his job, unfortunately. I think you're right. I just think Trevor Lawrence's jump from year 1 to year 2 was so significant that
definitely.
It's impossible to ignore. He had the big playoff comeback. I think, unfortunately, my biggest issue with the Jaguars is defensively yesterday. They need some help. They need a better plan. They need to know that Travis Kelce is on the other team, generally speaking. But yeah, I don't know. I was impressed with Lawrence, and the throw we joked about being
Lawrence
overthrown.
is very good. Yeah.
If Christian Kirk brings that in, that's another thing. I guess there was like this strut from people being like, "Oh, some people said the Christian Kirk contract was bad." It's like, well, it still might be bad. He's their best receiver, but it still might be an overpay. But I think that whole game might be different if Kirk catches that ball. So
that's true.
I don't know. I do think the Jaguars are at least viable in a division that should keep them viable. And there's something just year to year, because the Patriots beat the crap out of them at the end of last year. What'd they win? 54-13 or something?
Right.
I think they've come a long way in a short time.
I think that Trevor Lawrence has the potential to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL from midseason on this year. A great quarterback can only get you so far, and I think that the way that the team is constructed will depend largely on whether or not Trevor Lawrence becomes Patrick Mahomes in the Chiefs, or whether 3 years from now he's Justin Herbert in the Chargers, and you're still waiting for him to take his team on the ascent that he potentially deserves. You had two other notes in here. You want to talk about chips and balls and chains, and you also want to talk about how the NFL changed the overtime rule because the Bills. I want your rapid fire thoughts on these.
Okay, so the chains, obviously the Eagles-Giants got delayed for how long was that? 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 9 minutes?
Yeah,
it felt like
wild.
25 minutes.
Yeah.
What are we doing with the chains?
It's so funny.
The actual chain, because they never come out anymore. They never come onto the field, but they also aren't necessary.
No.
In a world where computers exist. Chains don't matter. You can have people might not know this that don't go to a lot of games. On one sideline, there are the official chains, and there is a stick, and there is a stick, and there's a chain connected to them. On the other side, there's just two people with sticks. They're not connected, and they are symbolically representing the first down marker because the other one is the official. Everyone could be symbolic. We have the technology. We understand you could measure to certain points. And even when there are close measurements, Doug Kyed, they don't know what they're doing. If the ball's here and the stick's here, sometimes they just guess. Sometimes they get an index card out. It's all BS. I just felt like that was the moment where we should have all moved on from chains.
Yes.
When a game was delayed to bring the backup chains out and they're all tangled like your Christmas lights.
Right.
Enough. I don't have a greater point.
Lasers on a computer screen could just fly down the field and you'd know immediately whether the ball was across the first down marker or not.
I will say this.
If you were a linesman, how much confidence would you even have that you could run in a perfectly straight line down the field? For me, zero confidence I could run in a perfectly straight line down the field.
Now imagine if you were 28 years older than you are right now and 100 pounds heavier. It's that challenging. But I will say, as someone who's always being a dink and filming the TV and tweeting, I'm "Oh, nice call, idiot." That job is impossible when they spot the ball. Yeah. They're doing the best they can. I just think people do overstate the simplicity of the chips, and that's what I wanted to get to, because there's a knee element. But if there's a way to sync camera shots, and we saw this recently, it was either last week or week 18, there was a big game, a nationally televised game, and they combined two shots. There was one where you couldn't really see.
Right.
But they spliced it so they knew when that shot was happening. The other one was synchronized with it. There's more you can do, and I just think the fact that we're using chains, I think about when I played high school football and there was just volunteers out there with just a metal stick and the chains. It's the same thing in this $9 bazillion league. It's almost unfathomable. And I don't have a good point. It's just ridiculous.
No, the chains are wild. Thoughts on overtime?
Yeah, I just think that for as much as, especially maybe I'm in New England, I see a lot of the tweets a certain way that the NFL wanted the Bills in the Super Bowl this year. I do think the NFL would have liked that. They they would have liked the Buffalo market in there. They would have liked Josh Allen in there. It would have done a lot of good. It's just the NFL changed the overtime rules for them because they gave up a lead with, was it 13 seconds or 17 seconds last year in Kansas City when they allowed a field goal drive. And then they lost in overtime when they didn't cover Travis Kelce. They left Matt Milano and Travis Kelce. Bad matchup in overtime. And they changed the rule. And that rule had gotten people before. That rule got the Falcons in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. It got the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game against the Patriots. It got teams that lost in the playoffs. It did not get the Seahawks and Matt Hasselbeck. That was a turnover. Different. But the fact is they changed that rule so everyone was going to get their possession, and it was kumbaya, happy-go-lucky, and the Bills really didn't fulfill that. So I think it was always a little bit nuts to me that the Bills were considered Super Bowl favorites going into the year because of the Buffalo factor.
Right.
It's expecting a lot, and it was a heavy weight. And I think they had a hell of a couple months. And we talked about this the other day. Between the snow, between the neutral site game, between the Thanksgiving game, between the national televised games, and then DeMar Hamlin, going through the emotions of that.
Well, Dawson Knox's brother died right before the season too, which was
forgot that.
Another crazy thing that happened, obviously. Super tragic.
Yes. So that's a lot. But just even in like the tight window of the past 6 weeks, I'm not surprised to see them run out of gas here. But we take it for granted having been in New England and seeing the team in it every year. But just way more often than that, teams have these high highs followed by low lows. So I don't know. I'm just thinking from the AFC East perspective.
Yeah.
It's not as much a fait accompli as it might have seemed that the Bills are going to own that for the next 5 to 7 years. Football is hard as hell to maintain and sustain.
And they've got some free agents coming up this season as well to throw things off. And
Diggs hates Josh Allen, as you saw on the sideline. Diggs is done with that.
It's tough. 2 non sequiturs to finish things up real quick. You posted a clip. I think it was like Bills fans singing O-Town's All or Nothing.
Oh, that was great. That was the O-Town guy.
Oh yeah, it was. So it was the O-Town guy and Bills fans. All or Nothing.
Yeah.
Might actually be the GOAT boy band song.
You're right.
In my opinion.
You're not wrong. And I'm a boy band aficionado.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not said with ignorance. It is definitely one of the best boy band songs ever made. Have you ever heard the Punk cover from
by Fake
Punk?
ID?
Yes.
Fake ID, Bridgewater, Raynham, Braintree's own Fake ID. Shout out Ben Patricus, who went on to become the lead singer of the Receiving End of Sirens. Yes, of course I've heard that. It was
maybe the GOAT Pop Goes Punk cover.
It might be. You're right. But yeah, no, that like
for anyone that doesn't know, the guy from O-Town is a Dolphins fan. It seems like, and I'm not a deep fan of O-Town. So my wife told me that was actually the O-Town guy.
Right.
But he was at the tailgate.
I had to like do some digging to see who it was. Yeah.
So he was at the Bills game. He's a Dolphins fan and saw some Bills fans tailgating, belting out All or Nothing because they're human beings and they have emotions. And sang with them, and I thought it was a cool video. And there's, like I said, there's 2 people in the world.
Yeah.
People who love O-Town and goddamn liars.
It's true.
So choose your side.
I think that like it might already be for like a soccer team or something that I'm not aware of, but like I think that needs to become the next like viral song that everyone in a stadium sings because it's like one of the great sing-alongs of all time.
Well, because Blink-182 got the Avalanche last year.
Right.
Everyone and like that song was 23 years old at the point. Nobody
Providence has Taylor Swift, right?
Yes. So I do agree. All or Nothing in like a late timeout could really. I mean, New England had Josie or whatever you call it, Your Love.
Yep.
I think there's room for it. So let this be a call to all professional and college teams. All or Nothing is up for grabs.
2 other to me best boy band songs of all time are I Want It That Way and As Long As You Love Me, both by the Backstreet Boys. But I would put All or Nothing number 1 for me.
That's a tough one. I think The Call by the Backstreet Boys is right up there. Sorry. The One.
The One, okay.
And I want to throw In Sync in there, but Backstreet Boys had better production.
They had better songs, I think.
In Sync had some more fun songs.
Right.
But I'm probably missing one right now. If I were to get my playlist out, it'd be a whole hour. But I do think The One and The Call. The One and The Call by Backstreet Boys are up there with me, but Yeah, O-Town's in there. There's no
Yeah.
denying it. Deny it, and you'll get in a fight with me.
There was a period of time when I was a sophomore in college where, for some reason, me and my college friends started watching someone from O-Town's reality show. It was some guy named Ashley Parker Angel, and he
Yeah,
had
what
a
was his
reality
show
on
called?
MTV. I do not remember what the show was called.
Okay,
but we
I remember
watched it
him.
like every week at 4:30 or whatever it came on. I don't know. It's just another non sequitur. Well, one final one. I know that people are invested in our Harry Potter talk.
Uh-huh.
I forgot to mention this. In Harry Potter 4, I was not ready for like the punk band that suddenly started playing during
Is that like the prom?
yeah, during their prom or whatever. I was like, where the hell did this come from? Like, why is this even happening right now? How's like a punk band part of Harry Potter lore?
Was it a real band? Because like in the 90s, that was a big thing. Like a popular sort of punk or radio band would be playing the house party.
Right.
So was it a real band? Did you look it up?
I looked it up. It was like members of Radiohead and someone else. I think the band name in Harry Potter lore was called like something Sisters, Weird Sisters or something like that. I don't know, but I just need to mention that because we both like punk music and everything like that, and I just thought it was very unexpected. Oh, one other thing. This is like no one's listening at this point, so I don't care.
Don't say that.
Somehow on my TikTok, like the guy from Bowling for Soup has like reached my algorithm or something. And he said something wild, and I haven't talked to anyone about this since he said it. But he was saying that when Bowling for Soup came up as a band in the 2000s, he was like, first he said like, we were a pop punk band. And he was like, well, actually we were a punk band because no one was really saying pop punk at the time. I was like, what? No one was saying pop punk in 2000? What are you talking about? Like I almost like commented under my own name being like, this is unequivocally false. Like how can you even say this as a human being? People weren't saying pop punk in 2000? That's insane.
That's like Clint Eastwood saying like, well, we did the good, bad, and the ugly. No one was really saying Western.
Right.
It was just not a very popular term. That was the height of the pop punk era. And now,
yes.
I don't know that there's necessarily a definition of it, but it's sort of like you know it when you hear it. And
right.
I only know maybe a handful of Bowling for Soup songs, but that would be sort of the prototype of pop punk. So
they're almost like so pop punk that like you might even be able to like eliminate the word punk from it. So like if I was going to call them, like if I couldn't say pop punk and I could only say like pop or punk, I'd be like, sorry guys, you're a pop band. You're not a punk band.
Like Blink-182 is more pop than punk, and I love Blink-182, so it's not an insult.
No,
it's just there are bands that sometimes have more of a pop sound.
Right. Yeah, and I'd also say like
fast.
I don't know the way that like Bowling for Soup came up, but like Blink-182 like made the ascent through like basement, like Bowling for Soup just kind of seemed to come out of nowhere. It was like, who the hell is this Bowling for Soup band that has a hit all of a sudden? I don't know.
Though I want to get this right, Doug. When they came out with the song 1985.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Sorry, I've got an alarm going off.
I don't know. I tried to search.
To wake up.
I tried to search Wikipedia. It was 1985 Chicago Bears season, automatically loaded. But they came out with that song in say 2001.
Right.
Which would be what 16 years.
Yeah.
So if you were to write that song today, you see it all the time. If you write it today, that would be like 2007. And it's like, no, I disagree with that. That is garbage. Throw that thought in the trash.
Yeah. The wildest one of those that I saw. This is the final thing I'm going to say because once again, no one needs to listen to our blathering on about all this stuff. The wildest one that I saw recently, it was probably on TikTok again because I'm just constantly scrolling on TikTok, was that Joe Biden was born closer to Abraham Lincoln's second inauguration than like if he ran for president a second time his own inauguration, which is just like wild. This has nothing to do with politics one way or the other, but like that just seems like impossible, but I guess it's true. I don't know.
I mean, he's an old fella. I
Yeah.
don't think there's any way around that. I have one more, Doug. We'll end on mine.
Yeah.
And that is, I forget where I heard this, but that 70s show debuted in 1998. And remember when that came out? It looked like it was from a different world, from like our parents in the 70s with the collars and the hair. Yeah. That took place, I want to get this right, 1998 to 1976. So it was 22 years separation. If you were to come out with that 70s show now, it would be 2001. And to me, if you came out with the 2000, there'd be no people wouldn't see it and say that was a different era.
No.
So that's tough. I don't know. Maybe I'm completely blind on that. Am I wrong? If you came out with the 2001 show, would it be visibly and obviously a different world from what we're living in? Am I that gone?
Not to the same degree. Because I've thought this before. I'm sure that like women's fashion has changed significantly in the last like 20 years, 30 years, whatever it is. But like generally, I am wearing very similar clothes to the clothes that I wore as like a senior in college, and maybe even like a senior in high school.
Yeah.
And like,
it's not,
so from me from senior in college to now was what, 15 years? So like
14,
so that's like 1970 to 1985. Like
Yeah.
if someone, or like 1985 to 2000, or like any like 1965 to 1980. Like that's,
I'd say
I don't know.
pants have gotten smaller.
Yeah.
Pants have gotten a little like if you watch old Tiger Woods clips from 2000, he's wearing
Right.
the biggest pants ever. And you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
I wore those too. But outside of that, it's not like 70s style.
Right.
So okay, I feel better because that one in particular, because I remember when that 70s show came out, it's like, oh, this is from 100 years ago in the 70s. And now, well, I've never told you this. When COVID started and I was working from home, it was new and fresh and all that. And I have a DVD set of the 2004 ALCS and World Series.
Oh, I have that too.
So I threw that in just as like background while I worked.
Yeah.
And my daughter, who was 6 at the time, says, "Daddy, is everyone in this game who played, are they dead now?" And I was like, "Go to your room. You're grounded. That was BS what you just said to me. I never want to see your face again." So I don't know. There is an element of denial on my part. No doubt about it.
Oh my God. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for the Pats Chat podcast. Thank you everyone who listened. Rate, review, subscribe.
Thanks for listening, especially this one. Thank you.
Especially
You're listening right now.
Certainly the last 15 minutes, even I'd say the last 30 minutes or so of this podcast. But all right, yeah. Maybe don't review after this one. Maybe wait until there's
Let's see what we got Friday. You never know. It could be better.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
All right, bye.